Hi guys and welcome to another video. This one's going to be a bit unusual for my channel because it's going to be some sort of beginner tutorial. I don't really want to name it a tutorial because I'm still learning and there are still a lot of things that I can improve. But over the last couple of months I got a lot of questions. How do I start modeling? What do I need? How does this work? How to prevent silvering? What colors do I need? Do I need an airbrush? Questions like that came up a few times, so I want to answer them in a couple of short videos. And this first one's going to be about my tools that I use. And this is going to be the next kit I want to build, a 1/44 scale tornado with a lot of decals, as you can see. And as I said, I want to do a couple of videos explaining certain stuff, do it more detailed than I usually do it. And yeah, let's start with my toolbox. I actually cleaned up a bit before this video. There was a lot of stuff in there that I actually never use. But before we go into that, let's show you around a bit more. So this is where I built. I use this photo box, and this will be my first tip. You need good lighting. I think I got this box from Amazon, cost around 20 to 30 euro, I don't really remember. And as you can see up there, there's this LED stripe which gives me perfect lighting for building here. I also take photos in there. As you can see, it's quite dirty already, so I try to cover everything with paper now. And down here also some paper, and down here a cutting mat for cutting decals and stuff like that. Over here I usually put my toolbox that you can see right here now. Here I got some old boxes. These I use for sanding stuff, so the dirt is not all over here but in the boxes, and I just put some trash in there, plastic parts, everything that comes up while building. And on the right side we have all my paints. Here the MOF and Hataka stuff and washes, varnishes, and down here this home-built little box for the Revell paint. Here the engine set from MOF, and down here my airbrush. So in short, yes, I built on the dining table. We rarely use this one. I don't have a fancy man cave or workbench, but this works quite well. So the first tip, you need good lighting. Oh, and one more thing, here is some old masking tape. I put it here and reuse a lot of it because they are not as adhesive anymore, which lowers the chance that it might remove the paint from the model that I'm building. So yeah, this is where I built, and now let's have a look into my toolbox. Alright, so as I said, I cleaned it out, but there is still a lot of stuff in there that I rarely use. But let's just have a look what we have. So over here we start with all the brushes and stuff like that. Let's start at the bottom. These are the things that I don't really use. For example, here are some sculpting tools. I think the only time I used them was the Shilka diorama. And another thing that I noticed while cleaning this out is that a lot of stuff here is from China. I got a lot of things from AliExpress, which is very cheap, but still it works out for me, so why not? For example, these silicone brushes. I only use them when I'm using masking liquid or liquid mask, whatever you call it, masking fluid. These work well with this because I wouldn't use a standard brush for that, because you will have the liquid mask all over the brush and you can't really get it out anymore. So these are quite useful. I think I paid around €1 for this, so yeah. Another thing that I did not use yet is the panel line scriber from Tamiya. So if you got a kit with raised panel lines, you might get one of these to rescribe the panels. But as I said, I did not use it yet. This is what I started out with. a carpet knife, but I would recommend getting one of these. These have very sharp blades, so be careful. And I don't want to be advertising AliExpress or Wish or any Chinese pages, but if you're starting out, this stuff is quite good. It's very cheap. I mean, the delivery times are very long, up to 2 months. But if you're a beginner and looking for some cheap tools, I would recommend trying AliExpress. So the knife is very important. Then I got some spare brushes, 000, which are the smallest ones, and 00, which are a bit larger. Also from China, I think a pack of 10 costs around €1. Can't go wrong with that. Up next we have some tweezers with different heads. This one's curved, for example. These aren't very stable, you can easily bend them, so if I have to use more force, I use this metal tweezers. But you'll definitely need these. Something else I don't really use anymore are these panel liners in different sizes, the smallest one being 0.05. You can use these to paint certain details. For example, tiny cables or stuff like that. And they're also quite cheap to get. Then we have a metallic pen. I really like using this one on, for example, the landing gear where there are some aluminium parts or something like that. Metal color. Nothing special, but quite useful. And last but not least, some more brushes in different sizes. As you can see, they are a bit battered already, but I mostly use the airbrush for painting. That's also a question that came up. Do you paint the parts before assembly or when the model is done? It depends. For example, the cockpit area I like to build first and then add the details with a brush. So the basic color goes on with the airbrush, and details like the flight stick and stuff like that, I use a fine brush for that. I hope that answers this question, but as I said, most of my painting nowadays is airbrushing. Alright, so these were the brushes and stuff like that. Now let's go over here. I have some caps from bottles and stuff like that. I use these to mix paint. If I need a larger amount of paint or mixture, I use these ones before adding the paint to the airbrush. Then we have some spare blades, some curved ones, and these. Then for the people who are already using an airbrush, absorbent paper points. These are quite useful to clean the nozzle of your airbrush. As you can see, they are very fine and you can just drag them through your nozzle. But to be honest, I rarely use them, only when the airbrush is completely clogged, and I clean it very thoroughly. Then another must-have, the glue for plastic parts. I'm using the one from Revell because it's easy to get around here and I have a lot of it and I quite like it. It has this nozzle so you can easily apply the glue. Oh, and it's already coming out. But most people use the Tamiya extra thin glue, which is a bit better, I think. But I never used it, so I can't talk about this. Then over here I have some more cables. This is a cable cutter that I don't really use. But let's see. Yeah, the pleers. This is quite interesting. I used these when I started out. I got them from a local hobby shop for 10 euros. And as you can see, don't cut wire with it, because then you will have these dents here. I don't know if the camera picks that up. Only cut plastic with these. So these from the local hobby shop for 10 euros, and a couple of months ago I ordered these from China. It cost around €1.50 and it's basically the same thing, only that it costs much less. So as I said, I'm not sponsored by Chinese companies or something like that, but you can save quite a lot of money with these. The pleers, what next? A clothespin, I used this when I glued some parts together and want to hold them in place. Sanding sticks, sanding sponges, stuff like that, you will definitely use this, or you can just get some sanding paper. Then we have a polishing compound, the fine one. There is also a coarse and a finishing one. This is not a must-have when you start out, but it's quite helpful if you got scratches on the canopies and you need to sand it out. This is also quite good to have. Some oils for weathering. This is something I bought recently and I'm still learning how this works, but it's quite good. A hand drill with different drill sizes, also quite handy if you need to drill a hole, obviously. And some cables and plastic putty. This one from Revell isn't that good if you ask me, but if you have some large gaps, you will need some modeling putty. And then we have these teaspoons. I sometimes use them to mix paint or drop it in the airbrush easier, but that's definitely not a must-have. And the last compartment over here, let's start with the must-have, the masking tape. I got these two in different sizes. As I said, be careful with the adhesive. Some of the tapes are very sticky and can remove your paint if you're not careful. Then I also have the Scotch Magic tape, which is transparent. I used this in the past for the canopy masking. Then you can get some special masking tapes for curves. You can easily bend this around small curves. And I wouldn't recommend getting something like this. This is very sticky, and as you can see on the surface, it's not fine or anything, so I wouldn't recommend getting something like that. Stick to the masking tape. Tamiya masking tape and other companies do these. Something else you might need are these crocodile clips. I think that's what they are called. For that I use this styrofoam block and just use a cocktail stick to put them in, and if I have a part to airbrush, I just put it in like that. You can get these also for low money from China, and these are quite useful. Another must-have, cotton swabs. These are specific for modeling. They're a bit pointed, and here on this side flat. You will need these for applying decals and stuff like that. They are very useful. I would recommend getting these. But for starters, you can also use the ones from the drugstore. You don't have to buy some that are specific for modeling. There I have some of the weathering powders from Revell that I don't really use. An old rag is quite useful. And a must-have, cocktail sticks or toothpicks, whatever you call them. Also something very cheap that can be quite useful in certain occasions. I mean, my number one tip is just start modeling and you will see what you need. That's how I did it. Oh, one last thing I put here is this marbling template, but this is nothing a starter would use. So this was my toolbox. This video is getting way too long already. So I hope this helped you. If it did, please like, subscribe. There will be more videos like this. If you got any further questions, just leave a comment below. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one. Bye.